what's going on? And welcome to another episode of CEBL Weekly, powered by BetVictor. Sean Woodley here, once again filling in for our pal Danang Balsera, but don't worry, he'll be back soon. You do have me for at least one more week though, so you're just gonna have to deal with it. On today's episode, we got a fun one for you. I'm gonna be joined by up-and-coming CEBL writer Zulfiqar Sheikh, as he's gonna dig into two key player matchups from this coming week and offer a little knowledge from what he's been seeing around the league as one of the writers documenting all that's gone on across the CEBL this season. I'm also going to be back with my power rankings, this time delivered in studio. And yes, I know there will be people who get mad, but remember, it's all the ghostwriter's fault and not mine at all. We also have an immersive look into the time capsule that was the first half of the CEBL season as we revisit the top 5 target score endings from 2023 thus far, presented by Guru Organic Energy. And lastly, you've got not one, not two, but 3 marquee games on the CEBL schedule this week that we're going to highlight and make sure that you've got plans to have your eyeballs fixated on them once they tip off. But let's begin, of course, with the lead. As we mentioned last week, it was a bit of a lighter one around the CEBL schedule-wise, but that doesn't mean that some awesome things didn't go down on the court. Let's begin with the Ottawa Blackjacks, who went out west for a road trip that some teams might have struggled with, but not James DeRuin's squad. After sneaking away with a victory against the Snakes out in Saskatchewan, the Blackjacks rolled into the province of BC and beat the Bandits for their 6th straight win, and they are getting contributions from all over the place. Mid-season additions like Jakeen and Gant and Matthew Coleman III appear to have the Blackjacks eyeing that bye in the East. And the River Lions, of course, are right behind them. They swept the home and home with the Brampton Honey Badgers they played this week. Pretty convincing fashion as well. And then hosted the Scarborough Shooting Stars on Sunday in what could be a preview of the Eastern Conference semifinals at this rate. The River Lions defense in that one held Kat Barber to a single point on the night. It was capped off by a poster dunk by TJ Law. This team is rolling at the right time, and they seem to have everyone's attention across the league. And then we have the team the River Lions beat twice last week, the Brampton Honey Badgers, who are sliding right now. They had that aforementioned home and home series loss to the River Lions, and right now it's all Kobe McEwen and Christian Vital, it seems, carrying this offense as far as it can go. But if this team is going to get back into the playoff race in a very tight Eastern Conference, they're going to need somebody else to step up. Perhaps the return of Zane Waterman will bring just that as he gets back from the injured list in the near future. Maybe he's exactly what this struggling team needs right now. Meanwhile, further out east, the Montreal Lions were mostly stagnant this week. Their last game came back on July the 3rd, a thrilling target score time victory over the Winnipeg Sea Bears in which 4 players scored in double digits. The 9 days of rest they've gotten might be exactly what the doctor ordered ahead of a couple pivotal games this week. Ahmed Hill and company are set up with 2 huge Western Conference tilts against the top 2 seeds in the Western Conference, and will look to get rolling as they push towards the playoffs. Finally, the last team in the East, the Scarborough Shooting Stars. Now, they lost a tough game in target time to the Niagara River Lions, a game in which they led going into the 4th. A key stretch of games starts now for the Shooting Stars as they kick off a stretch of 4 games in 8 days starting this Friday against the top-seeded Ottawa Blackjacks, and will look to make the top of the Eastern Conference a whole lot more interesting if they can pick up a dub there. On to the West, and I said last week, and I'll say it again, I have no idea what is going on in the West. It feels as though we know a lot more about the more easterly conference, but let's get into it. The Sea Bears of Winnipeg pulled off a gritty win against an undermanned Stinger squad in their only game this week. They looked out of sorts at times and were dominated down low when operating out of the half court. They did get a fantastic performance from 20-year-old hometown kid Simon Hildebrandt, though. He had 19 points, including 5 threes made in the matchup, and this kid is going back to school next year. 4 more years of eligibility. Watch out, fellow U Sports opponents. The second unit for the Sea Bears has been awesome this season, with Hildebrandt and Britt Jelani Watson-Gale being key players for the first-place Sea Bears. The Calgary Surge lost their only game this week, but all is not lost because everyone in Calgary is distracted by the Calgary Stampede right now, so there's a little cover for the L. The Surge will need to channel their inner cowboy and saddle up for a couple pivotal matchups this week, a home and home with the Sea Bears of Winnipeg. That makes the Western Conference picture a whole lot more interesting depending on the outcome there. Giddy up, partner! The Edmonton Stingers seem to have found something that works, although they split their 2 games this week. As mentioned previously, Shane Gibson is slowly making his introduction into the city of Edmonton, and with him, Nick Hornsby, Aher Ugwak, and Brody Clark have what could be the most talent top to bottom of any team in the Western Conference. More on Edmonton a little later in the power rankings. The Vancouver Bandits suffered losses at the hands of the Stingers and the Blackjacks this week, leading to more questions for them than answers. Where are the veteran guards? What happens when Georgie B and Nick Ward aren't on the floor? And where does new signing Marlon Johnson fit into the mix as the dunk king of the CEBL is mercifully back in our lives? Will they be ready come championship weekend? And finally, that brings us to the Saskatchewan Rattlers, who saw the first coaching change in the CEBL this past week as they moved on from head coach Dean Demopoulos, replacing him with Tanner Massey. And look, I'm going to miss Dean's pop-style interviews on the baseline with the one-word answers. They're entertaining as all hell, but this team needed some changes, and it looks like some new recruitments might be on their way as well, as a rumored fan favorite will be making his return to the Snake Pit later this season. Ooh. Who doesn't love buzzer beaters? I know I do, and I love the target score because of the abundance of buzzer beaters it brings into our life. Every single game ends on a bucket. How could you not love it? Let's take a look now at the top 5 target score endings of the season so far, presented by Guru Organic Energy.
Watson Gale for 3, no good. Posthumous tip it out. Allen, the rotation. Watson Gale again, it's good.
Got the radar, got the range with the first one.
Back door. 3 to shoot, they gotta go. Ahmad, tough shot in the corner, is good. Wow. Watson Gale with 10 to shoot. He drives. He's getting harassed. Shot for the win. Good! Wow. Watson Gale, the hero again, and Winnipeg is 8-3 in their maiden voyage.
Raised their level, brought the defense into it, and a great shot there. Watson Gale, ice in his veins, knocked that down.
Ahmad just dropped off the slightest bit on that play, and it was all the space Watson Gale needed from the free throw line. Pure. And the Winnipeg Sea Bears have
their level, brought the defense into it, and a great shot there. Watson Gale, ice in his veins, knocked that down.
Ahmad just dropped off the slightest bit.
Now it's Ottawa. Rowe works his way through, gets it to drop, and now it's Ottawa within 2 points of the target score. Got Coleman out on him. Looks over for Kennedy. Kennedy a couple of steps in. He bounces for Roche. Roche a strong move to the basket. He gets it to go off the glass. For the guy who's led this team all season long, bit of a struggle for him tonight, although he's been good here late. And now it's a fast break, easy lay-in. Justin Wright Foreman loses the handle. Coleman gets the fast break, and the game winner. Ottawa comes away for the victory. Wright Foreman just lost the handle.
He's usually so good with his handles. He can handle those tight situations, but kind of represents the game how it went for him tonight. Just a tough turnover there to give up an easy bucket.
As Ottawa comes away for the victory, Wright Foreman just lost the handle.
He's usually so good with his handle.
91-90 Brampton by 1. Target score action here on TSN in the paint. Gray lead, scores a 9-footer in the paint. Right corner, 3, no. Rebound, and here come the Honey Badgers with Vidal. Dribble drive, off balance, and scores. What a shot! What a tough shot. Out high. Gray works on Odro. 10 on the shot clock. Gray still working the rock. We're down to 6. Top side for the win. Onions, baby onions! Get out the salami and cheese, mama! Ottawa has won the CEBL opener! Oh, baby, what a play! Wow! Well, he had a switch on Osro. Well, he had a switch on Osro. Yeah. But that was a deep 3. Whoa. Oh. at Steph Curry range. What a ball game. I mean, Ottawa was...
Three with the ball, leading 80-79. Inbound from Flowers. Gets it inside. Scrub, layup good. Tommy Scrub, 13 points. And they're 2 points away from victory. Louis working on Tommy Scrub. Penetrates. Layup good from Alain Louis. He's got 7 points. They need 1 point. Alain Louis to the hoop. Kicks it out. Ahmed Hill. Hits it. Ahmed Hill. Corner three. 32 points. And the Montreal Alliance survive 86-83 the final. Montreal wins it here tonight. For Montreal, 86-83 the final. Montreal wins it here tonight.
And now, tensions are sky high. 6 away for the Blackjacks. 5 away for the Shooting Stars. Now 3 away. Huge bucket. Scarborough's 3 points away. 6 away. Blackjacks. It's frantic. And it's in! A 3-pointer! Oh, they missed. So 83-83. Next field goal wins from anywhere. For the Ottawa Blackjacks, do it again. Break the hearts. Oh, what a steal! Thomas Kennedy for the win! Yes! He didn't do that! Oh my God! What a win for the Scarborough Shooting Stars! Dad's in the house.
Here it is. Deng's trying to shake him, set up the offense, the pressure. I mean, your timing has to be perfect on that gamble, and then there was only one place to go.
They're yelling Kennedy MVP, and I'll tell you, Thomas Kennedy, oh, just Stats in the house.
Here it is. Deng's trying to shake him, set up the offense, the pressure. I mean, your timing has to be perfect on that gamble.
We are now 70% of the way through the season. The playoffs are somehow just right around the corner. That means it's time once again to dig back into the power rankings. And as I rank all these teams 10 through 1 based on how powerful they are right now. Please forward all your complaints, of course, to @I'mRightAndYou'reWrong on Twitter. At number 10, the Saskatchewan Rattlers, and it feels like it's getting late early for Sasky, who kick us off here in the 10th spot this week on the heels of 3 straight losses in the league's first coaching change of the season, with Tanner Massey taking over for Dean Demopoulos, let go after dropping 7 of 8 contests after a promising 2-1 start. But all but one of the Rattlers' remaining games comes against Western Conference opponents, so they do sort of control their own destiny here. Whether Massey can give this roster enough shape around high-flying Justin Wright Foreman to make a serious run at a playoff spot is the real question here, and I'm unfortunately a little bit dubious of that right now. In 9th, we have the Brampton Honey Badgers, and look, it's a little unfair to judge the Honey Badgers solely based on their current 4-game losing streak, considering the last 3 L's they've suffered have come at the hands of the 2 teams that right now are playing head and shoulders above everybody else in the CEBL. But it is fair to ask whether the Honey Badgers have the firepower to pull themselves back into the postseason picture right now as they sit on the outside looking in. Christian Vital and Kobe McEwen are great. Beyond them, it's anybody's guess which Honey Badgers may or may not chip in on any given night. In the 8th spot, we have the Vancouver Bandits, and it feels like the Bandits have been in search of quality guard play to complement their outstanding front court all season long. And maybe, just maybe, there's a glimmer of hope coming out of their latest loss against Ottawa on Sunday, as Dwayne Notice had by far his best game of the season as he continues to get his sea legs after a prolonged Achilles tear recovery. 14 points, 4 of 6 from 3, a great thing to see for Notice. Working in Vancouver's favor as they can keep on searching for the right guard mix without fear of missing the playoffs. Ah, the perks of hosting championship weekend. In the 7th spot, we have the Calgary Surge, and I've been a big fan of watching this Calgary team all season long. They're defensively stout across the board, super duper athletic, they love to do dunks, and I love to watch dunks, and they're clearly well coached by Nelson Taroba, but I just can't shake the nagging feeling that this team is going to be in tough to score in the half court when the chips are down in the playoffs. Next week is the transaction deadline in the CEBL, and if there's a way for Surge GM Shane James to add a high-impact scoring guard or wing to this roster, they just might become the best team in the West with a single stroke of a pen. In 6th, it's the Montreal Alliance, and welcome to the Nathan KO Show in Montreal. The 6th-ranked Alliance have seen the Montreal native grow from capable role player to full-on star over the last few games, with KO averaging 24.3 points per game over his last 3 outings, more than helping to fill the void left by the injured Blake Francis. His latest effort, 28-10-5 in Montreal's win over Winnipeg on July the 3rd, which moved Montreal to 3-1 against the league's 2 conference-leading teams in Winnipeg and Ottawa on the year. Can they make it 4-1 this Friday in Winnipeg? In 5th, it's the Edmonton Stingers, and oh man, I really wanted to get crazy and have Edmonton as my top-ranked team out west. Looking up and down the talent on this roster, following the addition of Shane Gibson, a dark horse MVP candidate last year, I think the ingredients are here for Jordan Baker to cook up a West-winning recipe. Aher Uguak, Carlton Bragg Jr., Jeffrey James, Brody Clark, Nick Hornsby, Mishak Lufiel, Martinez Varnas, Munis Tutu. These are all good players to the point that Baker is almost spoiled for choice with his potential lineup combos. If we can start to see a little more continuity in the next couple of weeks, top billing in the West is very possible for the Stingers. At 4th, we have the Winnipeg Sea Bears, and it's possible I'm alone in this, but I'm starting to get a little worried about Winnipeg, folks. Yes, they lead the West at 9-5 and are all but assured of a high playoff seed at this point, but I'm starting to get a little concerned about their defense, which surrenders the 2nd most points in the CEBL and more than 90 a contest. There just isn't a ton of bankable rim protection on this roster, nor am I convinced of the defensive options on the perimeter to go toe-to-toe with the league's best offensive stars. They can still score with the best of them, but if Teddy Allen has an off night in a playoff game, I'm not sure there's a reliable defensive identity for the Sea Bears to fall back on. And if you haven't picked it up by now, I think the balance of power has firmly shifted east in this version of the power ranking. Let's go to number 3. It's the Scarborough Shooting Stars. And though they lost to the squad ranked just ahead of them over the weekend, the Shooting Stars are beginning to find some form here in the back part of the season, despite barely having Jalen Harris at all as he's juggled various NBA camps and Summer League. Scarborough are winners of 6 of their last 8 and took a small lead in the 4th quarter in a big game on the road against Niagara on Sunday as well, despite Cat Barber's worst career CEBL outing. Barber ain't going 0 of 10 for a single point again anytime soon, and the Shooting Stars absolutely have the two-way juice to unseat the East favorites if all breaks right. The 2nd spot this week goes to the Niagara River Lions, and Vic Razzo has found himself a starting 5, and a pretty awesome one at that. Having one great player like Khalil Ahmad is one thing. Surrounding him with players that amplify him while he in turn does the same for them is another. Niagara is 4-0 since moving to Ahmad, Lloyd Pandy, Javon Blair, AJ Davis, and Eddie Ekiyor as its go-to starting group, with Ekiyor replacing reigning Defensive Player of the Year EJ Onu as the 5. This lineup brings top-tier playmaking via Ahmad, outstanding defense and depth scoring in Ekiyor and Pandy, and a whole lot of three-point pop from Davis and Blair, all into one incredibly dynamic two-way staple lineup that has to be considered one of the very best in the CEBL. And at top spot, it's the Ottawa Blackjacks. This is the easiest job I've had picking the number 1 team all season long. The Blackjacks have won 6 straight games, are 4 games clear of the postseason bubble with 5 to play, and the layers of talent on this roster just keep on revealing themselves. Injuries to Dengadel, Tommy Scrubb, and Kadre Gray on top of Zenat Adesamoah's recent spell on the sidelines. No problem at all for Ottawa on Sunday, as the likes of Michael Flowers, Jakeenan Gant, Abu Kijab, and Michael Coleman III all filled in the gaps beautifully, while Jackson Rowe took his turn, leading the way with 26 points on 15 shots in the road victory. They'll of course want their stars back in time for postseason hoops, but even in their injured state, the Blackjacks are this week's inarguable number 1 and seem to be pretty clear favorites just a month ahead of championship weekend. For this next segment, I've enlisted the help of someone far smarter than me. One of the CEBL's key writers for the 2023 season, Zulfiqar Sheikh, is here and has highlighted a few key matchups from the upcoming games this week for us to keep an eye on. Zulfi, take it away.
Thanks, Sean. I'm excited to be here bringing you all the inside information you need on some best player matchups this week in the CEBL. As we near the final quarter of the season, it's going to be all about awards races. A couple show-stopping performances can propel players into the conversation or put an end to some of the discussions altogether. So let's start off by going out east, where we have a rematch of one of the craziest finishes and just overall craziest games this season in the Ottawa Blackjacks taking on the Scarborough Shooting Stars. Fans are going to hope it's going to be a rematch of the big man showdown with one of my favorites for Defensive Player of the Year, Thomas Kennedy, taking on MVP hopeful Deng Adel. Kennedy is currently the only player in top 10 for average steals and blocks. More impressively, he's been doing it in 24 minutes of action off the bench, being asked to guard other team star big man every night. And oh yeah, what happened the last time Kennedy had to guard Ottawa star big man? I think we all remember how that one ended. If we can have Kennedy locking up Deng Adel one more time, it's going to go a long way for his case for Defensive Player of the Year. But on the other side, Kennedy may have gotten the best of Adel in that last matchup, but since then, Adel and the Ottawa Blackjacks have been on a tear, losing just one game, and then going on a league best 6-game win streak. Adel has been averaging 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists, and if you ask his head coach James Darwin, he passes, he scores, he rebounds, and it's downright special to watch and should put him in an MVP conversation. If the star big man can have another show-stopping performance against Kennedy, and that elite Scarborough Shooting Stars defense can go a long way for his MVP conversation. Now we head west, where fans are in for a treat, as you have the top 2 teams in the conference facing off when the Winnipeg Sea Bears host the Calgary Surge, and fans can keep an eye on a guard showdown between Calgary's Ruggsy Miller-Moore and Winnipeg's Teddy Allen. In my awards race update, I didn't have Ruggsy in my top 3 for any of the awards, but strapping up Allen and the prolific offense of the Sea Bears can change that conversation in a hurry. Ruggsy's on the cusp of a lot of discussions amongst fans, as the guard's been averaging 17 points, 5 rebounds, with a block and a steal, routinely defending some of the best guards this league has to offer. The last time Miller-Moore went against Allen head-to-head, they both put up over 20 points, but Ruggsy was actually the more efficient player on the night, holding Allen to 38% from the field while shooting nearly 50% himself. If he can lock down the star guard one more time and get another win, I can see Ruggsy entering conversations for Canadian Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and hey, if the Surge go on a run, I can see the buzz for MVP getting pretty loud. Now on the other side, you still have Teddy Buckets, one of the most consistent scorers all year. He's been in the top 3 for what's felt like all season. The guard's averaging 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists a game. His case for MVP has been clear. He's the best player on one of the best teams in the CEBL. If he can come away with a win against an elite Surge defense, adding to his already long list of jaw-dropping performances this season, the MVP trophy may just be headed back to Winnipeg.
Oh, baby, I just took a look at both the standings and the upcoming schedule, and you put them both together, and we've got a hell of a week on tap for you. I've circled about 10 different games on my calendar that should be watched, but the producers told me I could only pick 3, so here we go, 3 must-watch games for the upcoming week. On July the 14th, we have the Brampton Honey Badgers against the Vancouver Bandits, both squads really struggling. Brampton needs a win, and multiple wins right now in quick succession if they even want to think about making the playoffs, while Vancouver, resting pretty, knowing they're going to be in the playoffs, they just got to get into the right gear at the right time here. Very different styles of play here. You got the big front court duo from Vancouver, you got the star guards on Brampton. Whichever proves more effective is probably going to pull out the victory here between Brampton and Vancouver. Next up, we have my absolute favorite game on tap this week, and guess what? We get 2 of them. The first of the Calgary-Winnipeg home-and-home goes down July the 16th, and what more could you want here? You get 1 and 2 in the Western Conference. You get massive playoff implications. If Winnipeg can win both of these games, they'll basically be sitting pretty, all but sure that they'll get the bye through to the semifinals. If they don't, and Calgary manages to sweep these games, all of a sudden we've got ourselves a derby for the top spot that the Edmonton Stingers might find themselves a part of as well. You've got, of course, the best defensive team in the league in Calgary against one of the best offenses in Winnipeg. And you have the extremely movable force that is the Calgary half-court offense against the very movable object that is the Winnipeg defense. This one should be an absolute blast. Mark your calendars. Watch both of these games, kicking off with the first of the 2 on the 16th. Lastly, it's the Niagara River Lions and the Scarborough Shooting Stars, a rematch of an epic game last Sunday. Cat Barber, of course, going to want to see if he can improve upon that 1-point performance that surely is never going to happen again. And if you love dunks, and if you know me, you know that I love dunks, so I'm looking forward to this one very much. this one's got the dunks for you. You've got David Mooncat, Alonzo Walker, Kyrie Walker, Eddie Ekiyor, all of whom capable of bringing the house down on any given run to the rim. And obviously, this is very much a potential playoff preview. The second and third best teams in the East right now. Could this be for a chance to go to the semifinals down the line? Anything else I need to say about this one? It's going to be awesome. Tune in. Be there. River Lions Shooting Stars. And that will do it for another edition of CEBL Weekly, powered by BetVictor. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to follow at CEB League on all your favorite social channels for all the fun content, news, game updates, and more. You can buy tickets to watch your favorite team play right now. Head to CEBL.ca to buy those tickets. There's only a few games left on the schedule for each of these teams, so be sure to get out and get in the building. Tickets to Championship Weekend, of course, are also available. Get your tournament packs by visiting CEBL.ca/Championship Weekend. And of course, you can watch all the games live on CEBL Plus, powered by BetVictor and TSN Plus. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.